In this next interview, my guest says that the judiciary continues to be under attack from law enforcement agencies. He believes that even though the judiciary can protect itself, the other arms of government, the executive, should be able to protect judicial officers.
In Nigeria, in terms of the constitutional framework, we got it right. But unfortunately, in terms of the implementation on the ground, you see sometimes executive lawlessness, especially during the military, administration, and then some, pockets of executive lawlessness in democratic governments.
Is the judge above the law?
Well, the starting point is to note that as a general principles, judges have, restricted immunity. The immunity the judges have is limited in scope. For instance, the normative content of that immunity is that the judges are immune, from legal proceedings in relation to the discharge of their judicial duties. Now, that does not mean that the judge is above the law, and that does not mean, again, that the judge cannot be charged to court. But there is what I will call the case law of the country as represented by the case of Ganjiwa and FIRN, that stands for the proposition that you have to first remove the judicial toga of a judge before you can subject the judge to criminal proceedings. So if there is a suspicion that a judge has committed an offense before a charge or an information is filed against the judge, that judge has to be first reported to the agency if the facts constituting the count or the offense relates to what is required for the judge to be a judge. That is, if it touches on the honesty and integrity of the judge. So if it has to do with bribery, corruption, stealing, those are the things that touch on the integrity of the judge. But if it's about reckless driving, I do not think that you need the interposition of the NJC process.
In terms of the activity of the executive, legislature, and also the judiciary, do you see what has happened in the last couple of weeks, that incident, affecting negatively our democracy?
Oh, yes. I think that it's not a good thing for your democracy. Because at the heart of a democratic government is the principle of rule of law. And one of the key components of rule of law is the independence of the judiciary. And independence of the judiciary, if you want to unpack it, it's about insulation of the judiciary from control and manipulation and intimidation from other arms of government. So it's a bad day that day was a bad day for our democracy. And the only way we can redeem ourselves is to openly, name and shame the people responsible and then bring them to justice.
It's the culture of the judiciary to be quiet, silent, but it appears that cloak has been taken off with the statement by the Supreme Court following the situation, the siege at Justice Orderly's home.
Well, I think we need to preserve the tradition around the bench, and that integrity, that we build around the bench, that we inherited, and allow the lawyers to be more vocal. I will say that we need to be more forceful. We need to defend the public, defend our courts, because an independent judiciary is of critical importance to good governance and also to the building of an egalitarian society. And traditionally, judges do not speak for themselves. They don't fight for themselves, except when they make orders. So The only thing I expect is good that the Supreme Court has spoken, and I know that when the Supreme Court speaks, it sends a message, to subordinate courts, So, and at the appropriate time, the appropriate measures will be taken.